All right. Welcome to Gain the Benefits of Linking DevOps with AIOps using ServiceNow. And a little about the speakers today. I'll start it off, Tameen. My name is Carlos Peterson. I go by KP. I'm a senior IT workflows advisory consultant here at ServiceNow. A little about myself. Prior to coming to ServiceNow, I spent a few years with a early AIOps vendor and really lived the space and understood the early emerging requirements. And maybe another little thing about myself, Tameen, I really do like long walks on the beach, and that kind of gets me going. So what about yourself, Tameen?
I can't say I like walks on the beach. I prefer to bum around on the beach, but nice to meet you guys. My name is Tamim. I've been in the ServiceNow space as a customer for about 10 years, maybe 11 now. Moved to RapDev about 3 years ago as a solutions engineer. Prior to RapDev, I ran production operations at a small startup called Wayfair, which you may or may not have bought a couch from at some point. We did very cool work on the ServiceNow platform through ChatOps and Slack. We ultimately came up with what is now called the DevOps module. We had about 4,000 engineers deploying about 600 times a day to production. So lots of cool work there. Ultimately moved over to the partner side and helping customers kind of adopt the same framework we built there. I will say, as we go through our presentation today, please drop questions in the Q&A. It gets pretty boring talking to a screen for an hour. I think Carlos would agree. So fire away with your questions. We'll try to get to them as soon as they come on, but hope you guys enjoy the chat today.
Perfect. So with that said, as the intro video stated, there's a resource panel at the bottom. At the end, we'd love for you guys to just stay on for a minute to complete a survey. That gives us kind of a rating, how well we're doing. But then also you can provide some feedback on topics that you might want to see in the future. So, we're continually trying to improve the overall experience, et cetera. Now, before getting right into the content, I have to, as a good citizen of ServiceNow, read kind of not verbatim, but the safe harbor notice that we will be, saying a few forward-looking statements, and hopefully there's no buying decisions that are being made on things that we say or content we cover here. So let's jump into it. So the agenda today, trying to keep it simple, right? We're going to cover decentralizing CSDM and CI/CD pipelines. We're going to jump into the predictive AIOps by correlating signals, those signals being metrics, logs, and events. Then we're going to kind of trickle into the observability space and hot topics specifically around OpenTelemetry, the CNCF's number 2, I would say most popular project. And then obviously we've got some resources and Q&A, but obviously
the number one project is
Kubernetes.
Kubernetes.
All right.
Right on.
Okay, so
cool. Sorry, Carlos, cut you off. By the way, guys, 5 stars on the survey, please, at the end of the call. Don't be shy. The more 5 stars you get, the more of these we get to put together. Easy poll question to get the day going. I know some of you guys on the West Coast, it's probably super early. I don't know. I would not want to be on a call at 8 a.m. How many coffees or teas have you had today? Hopefully nobody answers A, but let's see where you guys land.
So, by the way,
I think we do like 30 seconds.
I'll give a call out to a local, local coffee shop.
Where are you based? Where are you based?
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Where are you based out of? Where's your local coffee shop?
Okay. Ashburn, Virginia. And this one's in Broadlands, a little shout out. But Colombian, medium roast, just a little bit of cream and cinnamon. That's what I like. Plenty of the number definitely goes up during the day.
My favorite's a pumpkin spice latte. So everyone on the call can judge me for that.
All right, let's see what we got on the results.
Yes.
All right, one to 2. There seems to be
Fair.
some unlimited. All right, let's jump into the content.
Sweet. So guys, like I said earlier, primarily focused in the cloud space within the ServiceNow world. A couple things we're going to touch on. Kind of going to be going back and forth with Carlos here. One of the themes we see come up a lot is how do I maintain my CMDB? How do I keep it right? One of the conclusions we've come to at RapDev is it's almost impossible for a ServiceNow platform owner to own this independently. So we've leaned on crowdsourcing CMDB services, and we'll talk through how we do that in a very fluid, dynamic, cloud-native workloads environment. By doing that, you also can semi-automate a lot of your tag-based service mapping, which we know can be super painful. Talking to a ton of customers, service mapping can take a lot of time. If you use tag-based service mapping, that's infinitely simpler. And then if you outsource that or crowdsource it by your engineers, it's almost like magic. Streamlining AIOps, again, using tag-based clustering. Carlos is going to walk us through some of that in his demo. I think the history there, I think Carlos, you and Matt Morris might have come up with that like maybe 6 months ago. Is that right? Or 9 months ago? Based on
Well,
prior life?
there was some early, some of the tag-based, it was field developed, and then it was productized over a year ago. So it's been out right for a while, but the original concept of the engine came from the field. Yeah.
Nice, right on. And then lastly, I'm a huge proponent of chat ops. If you've seen any of my webinars in the past, you would have heard me say this. The more we can keep engineers and users in their own chat tools, the more likely we're going to gain adoption for the ServiceNow platform. Less context switching. Nobody needs to take a training session on how to use chat. We all know how to use Teams and Slack. So the more we can push there, the better the adoption is going to be. So at a high level, what this looks like, if we were to put it into a little graphic, take this for a grain of salt. Feel free to screenshot this. I'm sure some of you already are. Now.YAML is a really big piece of what we've been leveraging to help drive adoption. And what that is it's a YAML file that lives in any of your Git repos that your developers can modify or leverage. And every time that YAML file is committed, we're picking up the content of the YAML file. This is the beginning of the definition of a service in your CSDM, whether it's a business service, application service, etc. The definition of when we're going to start to work on a service is as soon as a developer lets us know, hey, this is something I'm going to be working on. It's in this repo. Here's where it lives. We know the owner because of the committer. We know the content of that file because of the repo it's in, and there's a lot of metadata we can extract from that. Then we go into deploying the infrastructure. When a developer starts to commit code or build a dev stack, that comes through event-based discovery. Some of you might already be familiar with this. We really recommend using event-based discovery for all your cloud workloads, whether it's cloud native, whether it's compute, Kubernetes, EKS, etc. And then once your stack is up and running, you get into the dev lifecycle. And this is where Carlos was saying earlier, you can very easily get to the root cause of an outage if we're starting to track every single deploy. During my time at Wayfair, we did a lot of this because it's really unsustainable and unrealistic to ask for 600 manual change records a day. This is also super, super helpful for highly audited and highly regulated industries where your auditors want to know every little thing that's going on, but we don't want to use standard changes and assume that everything's always safe. We use the DevOps Velocity module to make sure that we're doing real-time approvals based on all the data inputs. And then that gets into observability and Lightstep. You've got an outage. How do we track it back? And now your outage turns into a major incident, and that's on the right side, number 5. Slack and Teams to track or to manage any of your outages. During your major incident, it is not uncommon to discover bugs, discover defects, basically have something in a backlog that your developers need to work on. Again, we do this seamlessly by integrating through Integration Hub from ServiceNow back to Jira, back to Rally, back to any of your dev tools. So the overall idea here is that the more we could crowdsource or from our non-ServiceNow power users, your engineers, your SREs, your DevOps engineers, the more holistic the platform is going to become over time, either through chat ops, through the native CI/CD tools, through observability tools, or through Git and now.yaml. So I covered a lot. Again, like I said earlier, if you have any questions on this, please throw them in the Q&A, and we'll just continue to kind of walk through our overview here. So Carlos, back to you.
Tamim, I got a question for you. So out of the ServiceNow customers, maybe you can kind of, without giving up the protect the innocent, so to speak, giving customer names. Maybe you can reference some successful deployments.
Yeah, totally. We can probably talk about a couple. Well, there's a really big basketball association whose name I'm not allowed to mention, who we've done a lot of cool work for a streaming app that they've deployed. Super hands-off, ton of engineers working in their own world. I think they were using New Relic and a little bit of Lightstep and a ton of Slack. So we did a lot of that, kind of integrating all these tools within ServiceNow. ServiceNow is really the plumbing. It's the core of what's going on. One of the most valuable things of using ServiceNow is the operational awareness that I like to talk about. A lot of your monitoring and observability tools are going to give you real-time awareness or health of the application. But what if you want to look at the last 30 days of incidents, or the last 30 days of code changes, or the last 30 days of infrastructure changes? That all exists historically within ServiceNow. That's the best place to pull that state of an application. Another one is a family of companies in Atlanta that do a lot of work in the automotive industry. You might figure it out if you Google it, but they do a lot of really cool work in the way of multiple sources coming into ServiceNow for AIOps, correlating through ML and through time-based correlations, and then again, spitting back out to a major incident through Slack. The key here is to collect as much information and metadata from all your ephemeral tools without forcing your developers to log into ServiceNow. That's super, super important. The more you can achieve without forcing developers to log into the platform, the more successful the adoption is going to be.
So bring the insights out to the environments that they're working in. I think that's
you got it. You got it. And I think we've got references on the last slide, right, Carlos, that people can go to. I think like case studies and stuff.
We actually do. Cool. So we'll get to that
right
at the end.
Awesome.
I think we got a couple. We have a question here. Can you please provide what is between 1 and 6 in the image?
Between 1 and 6 images, yeah. So the different steps. So 1 is an add-on YAML. That's a utility that RapDev has built that's available through the DevOps Velocity integration. Happy to talk to you guys about that. It's on our website as well. 2 is, where's 2? We lost 2.
Was it 2 or 6? Mark,
provide what is 1 to 6 in the image.
1, 6 in the image.
1 and 6.
1 to 6.
Oh, 1 and 6. 6. Okay, so that's 1. 6 is sending problem tasks from a major incident back out to Jira. So instead of forcing the developers to come into ServiceNow to resolve problem tasks, we bring those problem tasks out to Jira in the form of a defect or a bug. Hopefully that clarifies that.
And then we have another question.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, another question. What about break glass? What is the best way to do this?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that gets into kind of the different methodologies of deploying to production. Generally, in an ideal state, nobody should have access to production. Nobody should have admin access to any production system. Now, we all know that's a really, really hard world to achieve and accomplish. But there is a world where you can really rely on things like feature toggles, A/B deploys, the ability to fail back and fail forward quickly. And that's when you get into a lot of the philosophy we talk about with CI/CD is improve your engineering ability to deploy. Don't add more process. Adding more approvals is only going to slow you down, and it's really not going to protect you against these outages. The outages are going to happen, but the more you can rely on engineering that resolves the rollbacks or allows you to roll back more effectively, the more comfortable your environment's going to be for developers to deploy frequent small commits versus doing large monthly or quarterly releases. There's still more questions flowing through. Mark, let's pause for a second, continue, because I think
I will answer the questions by typing.
Yeah, right on. Well, yeah, we can pick them up.
And by the way, the voice you heard was Mark Verstaat, and he is based in Belgium. And he's joining us today. I forgot to introduce Mark. He's part of the team here. Okay, so are we ready for the next slide, or we got anything else here we want to cover?
There's a bunch more questions flowing through. Let's try to tackle them on chat or come back to them. I don't want to hold up the whole call on questions. Okay, but let's move on.
All right, we've got another polling question. As we kind of pivot into the AIOps aspect, vendor agnostic, I would say, how many monitoring tools or sources do you have in production? So I don't know if we got, it would be good to have some music in the background, but we can fill the air.
Some Jeopardy.
Some Jeopardy. There you go. All right.
Why not?
Probably pretty quick to answer that. Let's move forward on the results. All right, 1 to 3, 4 to 6. So it's probably depending on, probably to mean, you know, you got the decentralized, centralized, both. Sometimes it's bring your own tools, you know, kind of the SRE approach. But yeah, that's about expected, I would say. I would say between kind of that 3 to 6.
Yeah, I would expect a little more in 4 to 6. I thought there'd be more 4 to 6 than there'd be 1 to 3. That's pretty cool, though.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's kind of pivot a little bit and talk about AIOps. And really, from the left-hand side, these are signals, right, that are being created from event sources. They could be observability tools. They could also be just standard, you know, you think about the silos, cloud, events, metrics, and even logs. Again, more from an AIOps perspective. We'll kind of breach into the observability next. But the idea is that there's just a ton of signals, and you've got to first make it easy to ingest, but then also really make sense of the data. So that's where within the ServiceNow platform, we have an ML-based engine that can use kind of a combination of time, temporal consideration, text, meaning that maybe you're leaning more about what's being sent in the alerts, the anomalies that are created that could be partly tags or even tags that you normalize. We'll talk about that or show that. And then there's some sense of topology. By no means do you have to have a fully populated CMDB, but even basic relationships, you know, can help at least kind of filter or isolate to understand the blast radius of an issue. So then what will happen is there's clustering of alerts, right? Related alerts, some being more symptomatic, others being more causal in nature, but we want to kind of not treat those all separately. That may get assigned or routed to different teams. We want everyone to kind of see the full issue of symptoms and more of the causes as well, and identify very quickly what that blast radius. Now, one thing you see is the changes, and changes is really a term or an umbrella to cover traditional changes, but we're seeing more and more of unauthorized changes being able to be detected. And then kind of the core focus of this webinar is the CI/CD pipelines, right, from the various sources, ADO, Jenkins, et cetera, but getting those deployments in a machine-to-machine automated fashion where we can now start to leverage those insights to really understand, you know, is there a change that's really being correlated against why we're seeing these problems, right? The Gartner statement from years ago, 80–90% of the time when there's something that happens in the environment, it can be tied back to some change that's occurred, whether authorized or unauthorized, and in this case, covering those pipeline deployments. Yeah, go ahead.
Mark, I'll just add real quick. Changes in this context, guys, not always infrastructure. It could be infrastructure changes, could be an elastic scale up, scale down, could be a feature toggle, could be code deploy. So changes in the broad context of anything to a specific service, not only changes to a CI at the server or asset level. That's a really important delineation as we go into a much more dynamic environment.
No, I appreciate that, Tamim. And then really, once we have kind of these grouping of alerts, then we can be there's a lot of metadata on the platform, whether that's coming from other applications or even maybe custom applications from our app engine, or even custom tables where there's enrichment and things that may be hugely valuable to be data driven. And that's where we can very quickly reach out, you know, through Teams, through Slack, to get the people to swarm the issue, and that's with the collaboration. The automated remediation and workflows, and this is really the power. If you think about ServiceNow, let's workflow it is our motto. Workflow is such a key piece to really reducing the resolution times. Detecting a problem, that's one thing. Getting that assigned, obviously leveraging the metadata to do that in a data-driven way, but then really taking action. We have over 188, if you go to our ServiceNow store, 188 integration hub spokes. Those are connectors to Ansible, to orchestration tools, to other platforms where we can do that with all the metadata, do very intelligent, I would say, actions, workflow remediation. And then it's all about insights, right? We want to be able to reference things that maybe happened in the past so we can prevent those happening in the future, or resolutions and automation in the past, start to highlight those. So again, we can now start restoring availability and the performance back to a normal operating level. And then
Carlos, I think really, I correct me if I'm wrong, but ACCM is another option for automated remediation. Is that right? Yeah,
absolutely. So that's a good point, in the sense that if you're licensed on the ITOM visibility or ITOM health, or a combination of the two, we have the agent client collector. It's becoming huge. I would say there is a sharp increase in adoption, especially in cloud, to adhere to zero trust, to align a little better with the security posture, cloud security posture. And whatever it discovers, it's giving you the same level of discovery that a horizontal discovery is providing. And recently, with the ability to execute patterns even at the agent level, although that's Innovation Labs, soon to be fully GA, it will then start to monitor. It's based on Sensu Go, and the checks and policies can be fully dynamic. So you're collecting events, you're collecting metrics, and also logs that are fed into the anomaly engine, where we'll show you some of that. So long-winded explanation. Thank you, Tamim, for giving me that. And I would say the final thing is self-explanatory. Everything is based on outcomes, right? Why do any of this, or discover, or the things that we provide in the platform? It's really about what are the outcomes that we're trying to drive. Okay, one thing I'll say here before we get into a live kind of demonstration, so you can kind of see things running in real time, so to speak, is high-level architecture. So again, we talked about those signals being logs. We have an anomaly. If you look on the right, that occultus, this is our Sophie engine, where say she will start to identify patterns in logs. Even if you're collecting, you have a log analytics investment, maybe Splunk. We can pull it from a Splunk heavy forwarder, S3 buckets, Kafka. You can see the options there, Elastic. But the idea is we're providing real-time anomaly detection, looking at patterns within the logs, looking at the aspects of the logs. You'll see some of that in the demo. And that is not necessarily impacting your Glide, your ServiceNow applications. It is part of your environment, but there's no collecting the logs and scaling that won't have any impact, again, on your applications running, ServiceNow applications, I should say. And events and metrics, again, a large number, growing number of out-of-the-box integrations. So with that said,
just to clarify, Carlos, on the last slide, so what you're saying is we can ingest log sources from multiple different logs outside of ServiceNow, and then parse them and consume them using HLA within ServiceNow, and then correlate that to non-log sources as well. So like things like New Relic or AppD or Lightstep.
You got it.
All right. Sweet.
In fact, I'll take a mental note. That was a good summary. So yeah, we're getting those three signals. We're able to then cross-correlate those with multiple domains or event sources, and giving you that meaningful correlation, as well as understanding the blast radius and things of that sort.
Sweet.
Cool.
Right on.
All right. So it's all about, show me, don't just tell me. Let's jump in, and let me see if I can share out my window here. To me,
this is a real demo, right? No
can
recording.
You see it?
Yes, we can see it. No, we can see your PowerPoint.
All right. So
we can see a PowerPoint slide.
You still see a PowerPoint slide?
I see your PowerPoint. Yeah, I think you're sharing the wrong screen.
Oh, okay. Let me.
I see PowerPoint running.
Go. And nothing like real time here. Let's go to.
At least we know it's a real demo, right? It's not a recorded video.
It absolutely. So let me do this. Let me share. Let's see.
I think you just shared the wrong window.
Yeah. Let's get to. Give me 1 second here.
You might be able to share the whole browser, I think.
Yeah, let me see. We've got the Chrome tab. We've got the, let me see if this will do. Here we go. Share. There we go. Can you see it now?
Will the resource list be later shared? Yeah, we got it right now. Yeah.
You
Carlos,
see the AIOps insights?
I got it.
All
and
right.
Also, there's a quick question. I'll just touch on, will the resource list be later shared with us? I believe you're referencing resources from the deck. Yeah, we're definitely going to send that out and a recording as well. Same question came in again. Will you share the slides? Yep, we will share the slides.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right. You, Carlos.
So yeah, thank you, Tamim. So, and thank you for the troubleshooting. That's it. Decentralize, centralize. We can work together. So, what you're looking at is this is ServiceNow. This is the service operations workspace. So, just to kind of give a high level bubble of these workspaces have been kind of a mandate since, if you've heard of family releases since San Diego, we're now in Utah. And most of our content is being delivered not family release dependent, but more from our ServiceNow store. But this is kind of a workspace that, based on your role, I could be an incident manager, I could be talk about a little bit of the SRE view that's coming here shortly in just about 2 quarters. But I could be also from L2, L3. I could be maybe a NOC lead, things of that sort. But the idea is that you would see essentially KPIs based on your persona. So you're looking at the same workspace, maybe the same problem, but you're looking at through the optics of your persona. So maybe I care more about the alerting, the correlation. The incident manager may care about more of the KPIs from a major incident management perspective. And then maybe an SRE comes in that looks at the same issue and really cares about error budgets and things of that sort. So to kind of show you a little bit of, so we've got some issues here. We've got this express list. These are a list of alerts where we can very quickly, I would say, filter down on any type of alert field or even tags that we've normalized and things of that sort. And so what I've done is narrowed it down. We've got, in fact, an order status issue here that's a hybrid application. And I'll go back to this alert list here. And what you're seeing here are a number of, I would say, a number of primary or clustered alerts that one has 3 secondary alerts, meaning it's a 4-to-1 compression, or 9 secondary alerts, essentially a 10-to-1 compression. And really what we're trying to do is group those based on that time, text, tags, and topology. And essentially what we've done is we've clustered from traditional tooling a number of alerts that might be coming in from, I would say your monitoring investment. So if you think about the events that are generated, typically you're still being somewhat reactive in the sense that it's great, we need to be efficient, but the monitoring tools may have maybe even baseline, things that are outside of a baseline or thresholds that generate alerts. But even you can't necessarily see this, but there's a time difference even earlier before the tools start to generate their alerts, which are consolidated at our platform and correlated. Even maybe an hour earlier, or maybe a considerable time where we can now take action before impact. We have our anomaly detection, and that's really analyzing the raw telemetry, right? That could be a signal, like in this case, logs, and pulling out patterns of those logs, or even a combination of metrics. So let's just real quickly look into one of our alerts that have been correlated together here before the tools started to trigger downstream. So we notice here we have an anomaly that's been identified. So we're ingesting the logs. We've got a lot of different ways of collecting that. And immediately we start to, or Sophie will start to surface up certain anomalies. And so why is this considered an anomaly? In this case, because we see now we're at a 358% increase in maybe the aspects of the log. The log's getting bigger, or there's certain patterns. In this case, it's more about the characteristics of the logs. You can kind of see a baseline from this time yesterday, and again, we're way outside of what's deemed to be normal. So what's great about the idea, we want any kind of ML is a data set, right? You have some level of training to make at least those anomalies, right? The anomalies to be more actionable. So think of it as simple as social media thumbs up, thumbs down type of thing. We provide, again, role-based. The appropriate resource can come in and mark something as significant. Wow, this was a great anomaly that was detected, right? Maybe even unknown of unknowns as you're starting to move workloads maybe to a containerized environment. But the idea is that very quickly you can mark and provide that feedback, that think of it almost as a neural net aspect to say, this is a good anomaly, or maybe you want to mute this. Hey, this is a great anomaly, but that maybe this is something for this particular workload. We don't necessarily want to wake us up at 3 in the morning. Now, one thing we're doing also, again, from a log perspective, is really understanding the properties of this, and why this is important. Maybe from me as being centralized, I don't really understand all the things that Tamim's doing on from an app dev perspective, but I can very quickly see that, well, we're way outside of, the logs are getting a lot larger, and we can see that even without getting into the logs, that a majority of the size increase or that anomaly are traces. Okay, well, that's good information. We do have some root cause information as well. Now, one thing, there is ML in the platform. So again, as kind of getting that centralized view, we're getting insights that are surfaced up from the platform. It becomes really important for me to have all the available information to orchestrate or to remediate very quickly. And in this case, what we'll see is, based on maybe keywords of the alerts that have been correlated, what are some top hits of, I would say, knowledge articles, right? So in this case, based on the volume of logs, that could give me an SOP or something of that sort that could help remediate, even
remediation
perspective. Yep. Tamim, any questions?
I was just going to say, so like getting this set up, Carlos, how involved, or what does it entail to get these logs in and get some of these patterns to get detected? And then what are the different types of personas that would be, like, who would generally be the person giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down to that to the ML feedback engine?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, let's start with the ingestion. If you notice here, it's all based on role. If we want to maybe kind of decentralize, meaning we want to provide maybe certain individuals out in the ecosystem to get the signals into the platform, right? And what we're seeing here is this is an integration launchpad. So the idea is that from an event, metrics, and logs perspective, right, we have, even from an eventing perspective, we have webhooks, we have polls, and even you can create your own custom connectors. So the idea is that very quickly, if you have a source, if we talked about logs, whether it's from S3 bucket, Elastic, Kafka, Splunk Heavy Forwarder, it's a wizard. It's just very easy. You select, well, maybe one of the two or multiple signals from that source, configure it, and within minutes, you're now starting to ingest. So ingestion is a matter of minutes.
Awesome. We did have a question come in. I'm just going to throw it at you real quick. I think it's pretty relevant. Can we train the machine learning component specifically for our business, or is it managed at the ServiceNow level?
The training is at the ServiceNow level. If I'm obviously, it's.
I think the question is, I think the question is more around: is every machine learning pattern or algo trained specifically for the business itself, so for your organization, or is it trained for ServiceNow as a product? And I think the answer is actually for your organization. So you're training these models for your organization's consumption, not for ServiceNow as a platform that then influences every other ServiceNow user, like customer. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, and that's an interesting concept that has come back is crowd. I'm going to steal your word. Crowdsourcing patterns across multiple verticals, multiple customers, and that is something we don't necessarily do. That can be done, but there is some privacy of data and things of that sort that we strictly adhere to. We have the largest financial customers in the world. And so how we get about that data could be a little tricky. So that was just a little context there.
Yeah, I think So in the context of the kind of the model learning, it's very specific to how you within your organization are providing the feedback to the platform. This is not, and even ServiceNow as a platform is an independent instance for your organization. So whatever you're teaching, whatever you're consuming stays within those boundaries. It's not shared across any other ServiceNow instances.
Thank you, Tamim.
So hopefully that helps clarify that.
Yeah, and cool. Kind of going on here, and we'll try to finish this up. One thing, this is one of the alerts. We've got a lot of data related records, right? If there's that blast radius, that could be application services, platforms. They could also be just a collection of I would say technology stacks. We also give even kind of the business service if they're reporting and things that are important at a higher business level. Kind of where the technology supports, we're giving that visibility. But go back to probable root cause, right? And we talked about whether those are changes that could be variations of what Tamim gave the definition. But the idea is, everything is contextual. It's within a click, and now we start to get some pretty amazing insights here from we've auto created maybe an incident, right? Being data driven with the metadata. We can also start to cross correlate. In this case, this is a DevOps deployment. And as soon as this comes up, we've got a lot of details that are just, I would say, there was no manual change created. It was a machine to machine. We're part of the pipeline. We're getting the artifacts, and the data here will give us details about the deployment, who's the developer. In fact, Tamim, if you were, let's just say you're Abel, right? And I can now contextually, right? The metadata is there. I can now start contacting you. Yep. My mission statement as kind of the playing the role of the centralized support, so to speak, is that I need to restore availability as quickly as possible. I don't know all the things that Tamim knows about the deployment, but I know he's responsible. I can now start coordinating. Maybe he can back that out. Maybe there's other options, but now I have details, I have context, and I can even see the artifacts of, for example, those deployment files, those YAML files. And very quickly, as this comes up, I can even see the diffs. So, without, again, having all that domain knowledge, I can very quickly understand, where the diffs, like the previous deployment to now we have the latest deployment, obviously multiple deployments happening, maybe even daily. Something happened on this last one. Tell me exactly what those config diffs are. And what that'll indicate is, for example, tracing was enabled. There's a little bit of a backstory here, but very quickly I can just click on the diff. Go ahead, Tamim.
I was just going to say this makes this is kind of the power of having all that operational data in one platform, right? So if you were a developer and you got an alert, let's say in Lightstep, you're going to have to go back to Jenkins or go back to Git and figure out what happened. Having it all in one place, you got all the historical information of any source of deviation from any of your observability tools, any deploys that went out to production, any config changes that happened, and they're kind of all in one place. And you can very quickly correlate information from a ton of ephemeral tools into a single platform. And that's, I think, what we're covering here, Carlos.
Yeah, and what will, again, after these anomalies are detected, we start seeing, the full space. There's all kinds of issues with connections from maybe kind of the app tier, things of that sort. But we can clearly see, tracing was enabled, maybe for some reason, but that caused, some downstream effects. So again, to me, we're going to deal with this, but I need to restore availability as quickly as possible. And we talked about workflow is the power of, I would say, the power of our platform. We can also look in context to validate a few things with metrics. Again, our agent client collector, for example, can start even collecting metrics that I can plot to give me more insights into the problem. But really, it's all about, triage resolution. Things can be automated. In this case, I could have a series of playbooks. Maybe those are Ansible playbooks. Maybe those are other orchestration. Everything is contextual. But the idea is that I have a set of remediation that are exposed, right? And it's intelligent in the sense that we have all the metadata. So again, these are remediation actions that are contextual to this issue, but then maybe it's also now surfaced up for maybe a L2, L3 individual to run. So what I'm going to do is just say expand this disk. Everything is audited in the ticket, within the alert, and we'll see everything is tracked for post-mortem and things of that sort. But kind of fast forward, right? So as that's being executed, we should now start to see, for example, if I go even to a view here, our order status, whatever application, service, or platform, should now start to
recover
itself.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And
let's get
just super quick, the kind of the products or the modules we touched on here, where there's AIOps, there was DevOps, and service mapping or visibility. Is there anything else that we touched on, just from a kind of product scope?
AIOps, predictive AIOps. We have which we have the core event management. We also have metric intelligence, where we can ingest time series data, baseline that, do analytics on multiple metrics, but that's you had that covered. Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. And then just a super quick time check. We have 13 minutes. We want to leave some time for questions. So I think
absolutely. All right.
Time to blast
so
through
let's get back into the presentation mode. And another poll question. Tamim, you want to take this one?
Sure. What is the abbreviation for observability? Some of you guys might have come across this in your travels on the interwebs. Just a fun one here to sound smarter on your next call. But what do you guys think the abbreviation is for observability? We've got a couple questions on here too. Maybe I'll take a question while we wait. Carlos, any plans to support GCP, as a lot of nonprofit customers use GCP? I think I know the answer there, but go ahead.
Absolutely. So
as a source, go ahead.
We have an existing GCP event collector, metrics, and then we can stream logs from different formats.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Thank you. All right, let's run through the poll results and speed things up here. Wow, didn't expect that. So what is the answer, Carlos?
Well, I would think it's the bottom one there. You know, make sure I'm okay with that, but I think it is.
It is. It's O11Y, Ollie, observability. Short for, actually was first done by Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z's VC, and then I started copying him. But yeah, it's O11Y.
Tidbits of intel. I love it. Okay, so you know, from an open telemetry perspective, you know, this is becoming obviously a hot item, not just with specific vendors, but there is a entire project that is sponsored by the Cloud Native Cloud Computing Foundation. In fact, ServiceNow made an acquisition over a year ago, Lightstep, which is now renamed ServiceNow Observability. It's a data platform, right? You can ingest petabytes of data, but the founders were the founders of Lightstep, one of which is Ben Siegelman, came from Google. He was an SRE at Google. He developed Dapper, among other technologies there. He started his own company, but him and a few others are at now ServiceNow are the co-founders of OpenTelemetry. And really what that is it was to enable effective observability by making high quality, portable telemetry ubiquitous, right? So it's based on open source observability framework, right? So there's a lot of contributors out there, the cloud providers, some other observability players or vendors. And the key benefits is, you know, trying to get into more standardization. So OpenTelemetry provides kind of a standardized way of collect and report on, or export, I should say, telemetry data, which helps to ensure consistent instrumentation and really compatibility, I guess, across different tools, right? You're not just, you know, everyone's not just kind of a silo. They use their own specific way. Another is, excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, no, I'm good. Cross-language support. So OpenTelemetry supports multiple programming languages. So it's really making it easier to instrument applications, which was kind of a little bit of a barrier of the traditional APM tools. Although they're now providing support for OpenTelemetry. Plug-and-play integration provides a variety of plugins integrating with, you know, popular observability tools. And part of that OpenTelemetry is, you know, really addressing the tracing, the metrics, and log management solutions. Vendor neutral, you know, you're not locked in. So now you have a vendor neutral governance model, right? Scalability, the idea is designed to handle large scale telemetry data. In fact, the Lightstep or ServiceNow observability does 100% of the tracing. It can handle petabytes of data. In fact, you'll see some of the very modern customers that have been using successfully the observability platform, and really improved observability. Again, these are open telemetry, not specific to ServiceNow or other vendors, but from a community standpoint. Okay, so yep. Any questions there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of questions that I think we can probably skip a bunch of slides for, unless there's anything significant to touch on here.
No, not really. And these are just a kind of a summary of those key benefits. So I think we can
maybe touch on the
one
connector.
thing I will notice, just mentioned here, Tamim, is ServiceNow. It's in the Innovation Lab. It'll go GA in July, but it's our service graph connector for open telemetry. So regardless if you have Lightstep or not, you can now start to get the topology synced in real time. There is an open telemetry collector. It's provided in the form that developers like. It can be deployed via Helm, but there's a lot of data here. We're not going to have time to cover it, but I would definitely reach out to your ServiceNow counterpart or do a search. And
how can users find the Innovation Lab? Just real quick, where does that live?
The Innovation. If you just go to type in whatever your preferred search engine is, ServiceNow store, and you'll see multiple tags. You can just search for open telemetry, but there is a tag, or I should say not a tag, but a tab filter that says innovation. Cool. And then within there, you can do a sub search, but you can get information right from the store. And those are free apps. And so there's no cost to it. So sweet. We're definitely starting to adopt and embrace open telemetry, and there's a lot of benefits there. Anything else?
Not on that slide. Any other slides you got to touch on? We got a couple questions in the queue. Probably good there. Should we take a couple questions, some links there? Maybe I'll take a couple questions to Q&A. Mark, you want to run us through those?
Yeah, so there is a question. So we use Azure DevOps, Terraform with Tergrunt, AppDynamics as an APM tool, and ServiceNow to enable self-service for DevOps requests. Now, how can we ServiceNow extend our stack here? I think Tamim has a question for you.
Yeah, I can take a stab at that. So there's a few different ways. So if you want to think of ServiceNow as the plumbing that's kind of behind the scenes, you don't want to use it to replace any of your CI/CD, your IAC, your DevOps tools. The way you would leverage ServiceNow here is enrich ServiceNow with a lot of this data that's flowing around within your tools. So from Terraform, you could dynamically update your CMDB. You can even update your service maps using particular tags. If you have a good tagging strategy from Terraform, that'll dynamically populate any of your service maps. That then translates over to a very quick remediation or correlation from AppD and others. If you're using more than just AppD for APM, you might have Splunk for logging or Elk, and you might be using something else for infrastructure. Correlating all of those using the information you've got from Terraform would be super helpful. And then ultimately generating major incidents, kind of what Carlos was showing, and sending those either back out through ChatOps or using the ServiceOps workspace to remediate. So ServiceNow really isn't designed to replace any of those, and you don't want it to replace. You want it to every tool that's best in class for the use case, but you do want to ingest as much as you can from all those tools from outside of ServiceNow. Helps correlate, helps improve MTTD and MTTR, and then ideally automate some of the remediation within those flows. And if you want to dive into that any deeper, feel free to reach out. I think there's some contact information on one of the slides here. Also, for anyone that's still with us, I was notified earlier, you can download these slides directly from this webinar. If you look at the right, I can't see it, but you guys should be able to see it. There should be a link to download a PDF directly from the list within the webinar. So feel free to check that out.
We have still time for another question?
Yeah, we got a couple more. And guys, feel free to shoot more questions at us. Hopefully
so it's all about reducing costs to the service desk. The question, one thing to point out is one of the playbooks is to create a service degradation, which would be displayed to the end users in the portal, if enabled, reducing costs to the service desk. You have some comments on this, Tamim or Carlos?
Carlos, can probably take that one for the playbooks, sure. Carlos.
Yeah, if we, we can auto, get candidates that kind of fall into queue based on certain characteristics to the major incident management team. But, the more data points that, hey, we think there's availability problems, that can be exposed in, like you said, maybe a portal, maybe it's the service catalog portal that you go to as an employee to maybe even report something. So that I think that's the idea is that there's a lot of different ways to raise your hand to say, hey, we have a problem. And then that could be just additional insights to understand.
Yeah, crowdsourced. And I think the portal could be both external and internal. So if you have an external based application that your customers might be using, you could have an external facing status portal. If it's internal, like a SharePoint or email, for example, that could be an internal portal. But they could be both use cases. Exactly.
And then we have a last question. How do we protect ourselves from unintended consequences from ML?
Oof. Yeah.
There's
a whole other generative AI topic, but that's not for this. So one thing with, training, you have data sets, and it's just the definition of machine learning, right? That you provide, a little bit of training, and then that can start to make the anomaly suggestions a little better, right? The idea is the predictive nature is that we want to get ahead of any business impact or availability issues, and getting an early kind of very, I would say, with a high confidence score of that anomaly. And the training is really the way you can do that. You can reset training. There's things that you can kind of start some of that training over. But again, it's per workload, right? It's not so what we see in the cloud native workload versus maybe something that's in IaaS or hybrid. Those would be they're not, those same trainings are treated separately. So hopefully that little guidance. Yep.
Carlos, we have 60 seconds left if you just want to hit the last slides before we wrap up here.
Yeah, sure. I think this is it, right? I think we've got the last slide. Let's just see if we've got anything else. We've got registration, some broadcasts. Again, we'll be sharing these out, but I think we're about the end of time. That was perfect to me. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a ton, guys. Thanks, Carlos. Thanks for joining us. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. You can email us or hit us up. Hit Carlos or myself, and we'll be happy to hop on a call and get with you guys.
Thank you for the attendance. See you, Tamim.